Back. Let me ask you something. How many times have you said yes when every part of you was screaming no? How many nights have you lost sleep replaying conversations, terrified that someone might be upset with you? Back, we call it kindness, but in reality, it's self-destruction. Because every yes you give to others is often a no you're giving to yourself. And the hidden cost of people pleasing, it's your peace, your identity, back, and sometimes even your future. But we live in a world where the chase for approval has become almost like a currency, where likes, compliments, and acceptance feel like they define who we are. From a young age, back, many of us are taught that being good means being agreeable, polite, and accommodating to the expectations of others. Slowly, that conditioning becomes ingrained into how we measure our own worth, not by what we achieve for ourselves, but by how satisfied others feel with us. This mindset creates a cycle that feeds on external validation, where each decision becomes a performance designed to win applause. The illusion is seductive because approval feels good in the moment, almost like a reward. But behind that quick hit of validation hides a cost we rarely acknowledge. Back, it strips us of freedom because every move is filtered through the question, will they like me for this? That question quietly becomes the cage we build around ourselves. And the more we ask it back, the further we drift from our true selves. When someone bases their value on what others think, they begin living in a reality that isn't even their own. Back, imagine carrying a mirror around and adjusting everything you do just to see if people smile back at you. You begin to stop noticing your own reflection and only see what's reflected in the eyes of others. Approval feels like progress, but it's an illusion of progress because it doesn't mean you are moving toward your own goals. Instead, you are moving toward someone else's comfort, their definition of right or wrong, back, their vision of who you should be. This constant adjustment breeds insecurity because no matter how hard you try, you can't please everyone. Different people expect different things back, and trying to keep up becomes exhausting. The pursuit of approval then turns into a treadmill where you are running fast but never arriving anywhere meaningful. And while you sweat to keep up, back, your own dreams are slowly slipping out of sight. What people rarely realize is that approval seeking disguises itself as connection, but in truth, it creates distance. When you put on a mask to make others happy, back, you deny them the opportunity to know the real you. They applaud the version you present, not the person you are inside, and that creates a hollow type of acceptance. You may feel included, back, but deep down you know it is conditional. It only lasts as long as you keep performing. Over time, that hollowness grows heavier because it whispers the truth: you are loved for what you do, not for who you are. This breeds resentment toward others, but more painfully, it breeds resentment toward yourself for betraying your authenticity. The illusion of approval looks like safety, back, but it is actually isolation dressed up as acceptance. And the cruelest part is that you are the one choosing to stay invisible in exchange for temporary applause. Back, that exchange keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-abandonment. Another hidden danger of living for approval is how it blinds you to your own standards. Every human being has an inner compass, back, a set of values and beliefs that define what feels right and wrong. But when people pleasing becomes the default, that compass gets ignored in favor of a borrowed one. Instead of asking, does this align with who I want to be? The question becomes, will they be happy if I do this? Over time, the habit of ignoring your own compass dulls your ability to hear it at all. Decisions become harder because you no longer trust yourself, only the reaction of others. This is why so many people pleasers struggle with confidence. That confidence isn't about being loud or bold. It's about trusting your own judgment. And when you outsource your judgment to everyone else, you rob yourself of that trust. That theft is the true cost behind the illusion of approval. When the mind is wired to seek approval, it doesn't stop at small choices. It infiltrates major life decisions. People begin to choose careers, partners, back, and lifestyles not because they truly want them, but because those choices look good in the eyes of others. A person may find themselves working a job they hate, but staying because it earns nods of respect, back. Or they may marry someone who fits societal standards, but doesn't ignite their soul. From the outside, their life looks polished and impressive, but inside they feel like strangers in their own story. This is how entire decades can be lost chasing someone else's applause while silencing your own desires. The danger is not that approval will ruin you overnight, back, but that it will slowly erode you until one day you realize you don't even know who you are anymore. And by then, the cost feels almost irreversible. That is the silent devastation hidden in people pleasing. Back. The irony is that approval is fleeting and unreliable even when you chase it relentlessly. The same people who praise you today can criticize you tomorrow for the exact same action, back, depending on their mood or circumstances. Building your identity on something so unstable means living in constant anxiety. You become hyper aware of every word, every gesture, every mistake, Back, terrified that one slip might erase the approval you worked so hard for. This anxiety doesn't just live in your mind. It seeps into your body, creating stress, sleepless nights, and exhaustion. Back, the body keeps score of every compromise you make against yourself, even if others never notice. And so people pleasers often pay with their health, not realizing the approval they crave is too weak to sustain them. Back. What begins as a strategy to gain acceptance ends as a trap that drains both spirit and strength. That is the illusion of approval in its rawest form. There is also a deep contradiction in the pursuit of approval. The more you chase it, the less you are respected. People might enjoy that you accommodate them, but respect is rarely given to those who never stand their ground. True respect comes from clarity, conviction, back, and the courage to be consistent even when it's unpopular. But when your decisions change like the wind, bending to every demand, you send a message that your own values don't matter. Back. And if you don't value your own boundaries, why would anyone else? Approval gives you temporary smiles, but respect gives you lasting influence. Those who matter will always admire authenticity more than performance. Back. And while approval fades quickly, authenticity leaves a mark that lasts. The tragedy is that so many settle for the former because it feels easier in the moment, yet in the long run, the cost is always greater. Back. Another painful side effect of approval seeking is how it shrinks your potential. Greatness has never been achieved by those who played it safe to keep everyone happy. Innovators, leaders, back, and creators all faced resistance, criticism, and rejection at some point. But they achieved greatness because they chose their vision over approval. When you live for validation, you rob yourself of the courage required to take bold risks. Instead of stepping into the unknown, you stay in the comfort zone where applause is predictable. That safety comes at the expense of growth. Opportunities that could transform your life pass by because you are too afraid of what others might think. The dream you once had turns into regret, not because it was impossible, back, but because you never gave yourself permission to try. And that regret is the heaviest weight approval seeking will ever place on your shoulders. Back. The illusion of approval is powerful because it disguises itself as kindness, humility, or even responsibility. You tell yourself you're just being considerate, just being a team player, just being thoughtful of others' needs. But underneath those justifications lies fear, the fear of being rejected, abandoned, or disliked. That fear manipulates you into serving everyone else at the cost of yourself. Back, and as long as you hide behind the mask of just being nice, you avoid facing the truth that you are choosing fear over freedom. Fear convinces you that rejection is unbearable, but what is truly unbearable is living a life that isn't yours. The approval you gain might soothe the fear for a moment, but it never silences it. Instead, it keeps you dependent on the next fix, back like a drug that loses its effect over time. And soon, the illusion becomes the prison you can't escape. When you spend your life putting everyone else first, the very concept of boundaries starts to dissolve it back. You find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, giving time when you don't have it, and offering energy when your tank is already empty. At first, it feels noble, back, like you're doing the right thing by being there for others no matter the cost. People praise you for being reliable, selfless, and dependable, and that validation convinces you it's worth the sacrifice. But over time, back, cracks begin to form because the demands don't stop, they grow. What once felt like small favors becomes constant obligation, and suddenly your schedule doesn't belong to you anymore. Back, every minute feels borrowed by someone else's priorities, leaving your own dreams collecting dust in the background. Back. That is the price of living without boundaries. You trade your life away piece by piece until it no longer feels like yours. Back, the danger with weakened boundaries is that they create an invisible contract you never agreed to. Once people learn you will always say yes, they begin to expect it, often without malice, but with certainty. Back. They don't see the exhaustion behind your smile, the resentment beneath your compliance, or the stress you carry silently. To them, you've always been the person who makes things happen. Back. So why would they think otherwise? That expectation becomes a cycle where your willingness is taken for granted and your reluctance is ignored. And because you never drew the line, get back, you start to feel guilty even thinking about saying no. Guilt becomes the chain that keeps you locked into obligations you no longer want, but can't seem to escape. Back. You convince yourself that disappointing others is worse than betraying yourself. In the process, you slowly forget that your time, energy, and peace are not endless resources to be consumed without limit. Back. The absence of boundaries doesn't just affect your schedule, it erodes your sense of identity. When every decision is made around what others want, you stop asking yourself what you actually want. Back. You start confusing your obligations with your values, mistaking constant service for true purpose. But serving others without limits isn't purpose, it's depletion. Take it back. A life without boundaries leads you to wake up one day realizing you don't even know what your priorities are anymore. Back. You have been so busy meeting everyone else's needs that you've lost the language of your own desires. The silence of your ignored passions becomes deafening, and with it comes frustration that has no clear target. Back. You want to blame others for asking too much, but deep down, you know it was you who never said no. And in that recognition lies the most painful truth. The erosion of identity didn't happen because of them. Back. It happened because of you. Without boundaries, stress becomes your constant companion, and overcommitment becomes your normal. You begin to live in survival mode. Back. Moving from one responsibility to the next with no breathing room in between. The human body and mind are not designed to operate under constant pressure without rest. Back. Yet people pleasers force themselves into this pattern daily. At first, you justify it by telling yourself it's temporary, that the busy season will pass. But when temporary turns into years of exhaustion, you realize you've normalized a lifestyle that is slowly burning you out. Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in quietly, disguised as tiredness you think you can push through. Then one day, you wake up and realize you've lost the energy to do even the things you love. That is the hidden cost of living without boundaries. Life becomes a series of obligations with no space left for joy. Back. Another consequence of dissolving boundaries is the resentment that builds toward the very people you try to please. At first, you tell yourself you're happy to help, that their gratitude makes the sacrifice worthwhile. Back. But when gratitude fades or expectations increase, bitterness starts to take root. You begin to feel used, even though you were the one who offered yourself so freely. That resentment poisons relationships, creating tension where there was once harmony. Ironically, the very desire to keep peace by pleasing others ends up destroying the connection altogether. People sense the unspoken frustration, and instead of appreciation, you begin to receive distance. And yet, even in that moment, you struggle to admit the problem lies in your lack of boundaries. Instead of addressing it directly, you bury the frustration deeper, repeating the cycle until your relationships are filled with quiet resentment instead of genuine love. When you have no boundaries, even small tasks feel overwhelming because they are piled on top of an already overflowing plate. The inability to say no means your commitments multiply faster than you can manage them. That constant overload diminishes your ability to focus, to perform at your best, and to truly excel at anything. You end up stretched thin, delivering just enough to get by, but never enough to feel proud of the outcome. Mediocrity becomes the result of trying to do everything for everyone instead of doing fewer things with excellence. This mediocrity doesn't just frustrate you. It chips away at your confidence. You start believing you are incapable of excellence, forgetting that the real issue is not your ability, but your lack of focus. Without boundaries, the best of your talent is diluted across too many obligations, leaving you exhausted and unfulfilled. And in that exhaustion, your potential quietly goes to waste. But the absence of boundaries also creates an unhealthy dynamic where people learn to value your compliance more than your authenticity. They stop asking what you want because they already assume you'll adjust to their needs. Your voice grows smaller in conversations, your preferences dismissed before you can even express them. Over time, this makes you feel invisible, like your presence is valued only for what you can give, not for who you are. That invisibility isn't forced on you. It is the natural outcome of never drawing the line. When you fail to communicate your limits, you teach people that your needs don't matter. And once that lesson is learned, undoing it becomes extremely difficult. You find yourself fighting to reclaim a voice you willingly silenced for years. And while people may resist at first, the truth is they were only following the pattern you allowed to exist all along. Without boundaries, your mental health begins to suffer in ways you may not immediately recognize. Anxiety becomes a shadow that follows you, whispering that you'll never be enough no matter how much you give. Depression creeps in when you realize that nothing you do seems to bring lasting fulfillment. Your mind becomes a battlefield of constant worry, guilt, and exhaustion. The very act of pleasing others stops feeling rewarding and starts feeling like an endless chore. This psychological weight makes it harder to find joy in simple moments because your brain is always racing to the next obligation. And while others may see you as strong and dependable, inside you feel like you are drowning. Your smile becomes a mask to hide the fatigue you don't want anyone to notice. This silent struggle is one of the deepest costs of living without boundaries, and it often remains invisible until it's too late. Even your long-term growth becomes impossible when you lack boundaries. Growth requires space, time to reflect, energy to experiment, and courage to pursue new opportunities. But when every ounce of your capacity is consumed by meeting others' needs, there is no room left for your own development. You watch opportunities pass by not because you aren't capable, but because you are too busy being available for everyone else. You sacrifice your future for the sake of temporary approval in the present. And while it may feel like you are doing the right thing, the truth is you are standing still while others move forward. The years slip by, and the gap between who you are and who you wanted to become grows wider. That gap becomes harder to ignore, and with it comes regret that no amount of external validation can soothe. In the absence of boundaries, the price you pay is not just today, it is your entire future. Take it back. When you live your life constantly saying yes, the first thing you start to lose is your sense of self. At first, it feels harmless to agree with others, to go along with their plans, to adjust your preferences so they feel happy. But little by little, those choices begin to blur the lines of your own identity. The things you once loved, the opinions you once voiced, and the desires you once prioritized begin to fade into the background. People start recognizing you not for who you are, but for your willingness to adapt. They admire your flexibility, but what they fail to see is the silent cost of that flexibility. Deep down, you start to notice the gap between what you want and what you're settling for. That gap grows wider each time you say yes when you mean no, until one day you can no longer hear your own voice clearly. The slow erosion of identity doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in through small compromises you barely notice. You agree to eat at the restaurant they like, even though you had a craving for something else. You choose the career path that earns praise, even though your passion lies elsewhere. You go along with the group decision, even though your gut told you something different. These small sacrifices pile up until they become your default behavior, a habit of silencing yourself before you even consider speaking. Over time, the silence becomes so normal that you forget what it feels like to confidently state your own desires. This creates an internal conflict where part of you longs to be heard, while another part fears rejection if you speak up. That conflict becomes exhausting because you are always torn between authenticity and acceptance. And in that exhaustion, your identity begins to fade into the shadows. What many people don't realize is that constantly pleasing others teaches you to distrust your own instincts. You become so conditioned to seeking approval that you question whether your natural impulses are even valid. If others disagree with your choices, you assume they must know better, so you abandon your decision in favor of theirs. This pattern chips away at your confidence, making you feel incapable of making choices without external validation. Confidence isn't destroyed in a single moment. It erodes every time you abandon your instincts to satisfy someone else. Soon, even small decisions like where to go, what to wear, or how to spend your time feel overwhelming. You hesitate, second guess, and overanalyze because you've lost the ability to trust yourself. And the less you trust yourself, the more you depend on others, reinforcing the cycle. That cycle is where identity is quietly stolen without you realizing it. When you always say yes, people begin to project their version of you onto your life. They start defining your personality, your values, your strengths, and even your future based on what serves them. At first, it feels good to be seen, but eventually you realize they are not seeing you. They are seeing the version of you that makes them comfortable. The more you feed into that version, the more you feel like a stranger in your own skin. You notice yourself laughing at jokes that don't amuse you, agreeing with opinions that clash with your beliefs, and showing up to events you dread attending. Every time you bend to their narrative, you push your own identity further out of sight. It's like watching yourself live someone else's life, while your true self sits silently on the sidelines. That disconnect breeds emptiness because no amount of approval can fill the void of losing your authenticity. The cost of losing your identity to people pleasing is not just emotional, it's spiritual. Each of us has a unique voice, a set of values, and a calling that makes us who we are. When you constantly prioritize others over yourself, you deny that voice the chance to express itself. You silence your creativity, your passions, and your purpose because they might inconvenience someone else. That denial feels small in the moment, but it creates a deep inner ache that never goes away. It is the ache of knowing you were meant for more, but choosing less to keep others happy. Over time, that ache grows into frustration, then into regret, and finally into despair. The tragedy is that people often realize this only after years of hiding themselves. And by then, the life they've built is so intertwined with others' expectations that reclaiming it feels impossible. Relationships also suffer when you lose your identity in the name of pleasing others. At first, people enjoy the convenience of your compliance, but real connection requires honesty. When you hide your true self, you create relationships built on performance rather than authenticity. That kind of connection is fragile because it depends on you continuing the act. The moment you reveal your real desires, opinions, or boundaries, others may feel betrayed because they never truly knew you. This creates distance, arguments, or even the collapse of relationships that were never genuine to begin with. In trying to preserve harmony, you end up creating instability because the foundation was false from the start. People don't bond with masks. They bond with truth, even when truth is messy. By hiding your identity back, you rob both yourself and others of the chance to experience genuine intimacy. And without intimacy, relationships lose their depth and meaning. When identity erodes, so does the ability to dream. Dreams require a strong sense of self because they are born from what you truly want, not what others expect. But when you are stuck in people pleasing, even your dreams start to feel borrowed back. You pursue goals that look good on the outside but feel hollow on the inside. You celebrate milestones that impress others but leave you strangely unsatisfied. The applause dies down quickly back, and you are left wondering why success feels so empty. It's because the dream wasn't yours. It was someone else's vision handed to you, and you carried it without questioning it back. Carrying someone else's dream will never give you fulfillment because it doesn't reflect your soul. The longer you chase borrowed dreams, the further you drift from your own. And eventually, you risk reaching the end of your life only to realize you never truly lived as yourself. The pressure to always say yes also creates a fear of rejection that controls your decisions back. You begin to believe that if you assert your true self, people will walk away. That fear is powerful because it convinces you that being authentic is too risky. But in reality, the cost of hiding is far greater than the cost of rejection. When you hide your true identity, you are already rejecting yourself every single day. That self-rejection is subtle but relentless. Take it back, eating away at your self-esteem like rust on metal. You may not see the damage immediately, but over time it weakens you until you feel hollow inside. Fear of rejection may keep people around you, but they're around the version of you that isn't real, which means deep down you are still alone. And loneliness in a crowded room is one of the most painful consequences of losing yourself back. One of the hardest truths about people pleasing is that it never guarantees love. It only guarantees dependency. People love the way you make them feel, but that love is conditional on your compliance back. The moment you stop saying yes, the moment you assert yourself, that conditional love often disappears. True love is not earned by erasing yourself. It is built by being fully seen and accepted. Get back. When you constantly mold yourself to others, you rob them of the chance to love the real you. And in doing so, you rob yourself of the joy of being loved authentically. Back. The fear of rejection keeps you stuck in conditional relationships where love feels fragile and approval feels transactional. Over time, that kind of love leaves you feeling empty because it doesn't feed your soul. What your soul craves is authenticity, and without it, even love feels shallow and incomplete. There comes a moment in life when you realize that the endless pursuit of approval is a losing game back, and the only way forward is to live by your own integrity. Integrity means aligning your actions with your values, even when those actions risk disappointing others. It's about having the courage to stand firm in what you believe rather than bending to fit someone else's comfort. Approval may bring temporary relief, but integrity builds long-term peace. When you choose approval back, you gamble with your identity. When you choose integrity, you solidify it. People may not always like you for living authentically, but they will respect you for it. That respect lasts far longer than applause because it is rooted in truth. Integrity requires strength, and strength is often uncomfortable, but comfort never builds character. The price of approval is self-betrayal, but the reward of integrity is self-respect. Living with integrity doesn't mean you become unkind or dismissive. It means you stop lying to yourself to keep others happy. Too many people confuse people pleasing with kindness, when in reality it's often dishonesty disguised as generosity. Saying yes when you want to say no isn't kindness, it's avoidance. Agreeing with something you don't believe isn't politeness, it's self-erasure. Integrity demands honesty, even if honesty risks conflict. Conflict may sting in the moment, but it clears the air and makes space for real connection. The truth has weight, and when you live in alignment with it, people know they can trust you. Approval may win you temporary allies, but truth earns you lasting respect. You cannot build a meaningful life on a foundation of false agreements. Integrity is the commitment to truth, even when truth costs you approval. The choice to live by integrity often feels terrifying because it comes with the risk of rejection. When you stop performing for others, some people will walk away, and that loss will hurt. But what hurts even more is realizing that those relationships were built on conditions rather than authenticity. If someone only values you when you bend to their expectations, then their acceptance was never real. Integrity filters your relationships so that only those who respect the real you remain. That filter may leave you with fewer people, but those who stay will stay for the right reasons. Quality will replace quantity, and depth will replace shallowness. The loneliness of losing conditional relationships will eventually be replaced with the freedom of being truly seen, and that freedom is worth more than any approval could ever buy. Living without integrity keeps people around, but living with integrity attracts the right ones. When you choose integrity, you also unlock the power of consistency. It back. People pleasers are often inconsistent because their decisions depend on who they're trying to satisfy in the moment. Integrity anchors you to your own principles, making your choices steady and predictable. Back. That consistency builds trust, not because you always agree with others, but because people know where you stand. They may not like your stance, but they will respect it because it's unwavering. Back in a world full of shifting opinions and performative behavior, integrity stands out as rare and powerful. Leaders are born not from pleasing everyone, but from holding firm to values despite opposition. History doesn't celebrate those who blended in. It celebrates those who stood their ground. Consistency rooted in integrity makes you reliable in a way approval never can. And reliability is what makes people lean on you when it truly matters. The strength to choose integrity over approval comes from redefining what success means to you. If success is based on applause, you will forever be chasing a moving target. But if success is based on living according to your values, then you are in control. No one else gets to decide whether you are winning or failing. Approval makes you fragile because it depends on something you cannot control, other people's opinions. Integrity makes you powerful because it's rooted in something you can control, your own actions. That shift transforms the way you live because every decision becomes an opportunity to honor your truth. Success is no longer about impressing others. It's about being proud of yourself when no one is watching. That kind of success creates peace of mind, and peace of mind is priceless. Approval feeds ego, but integrity feeds the soul. The world often rewards people who are bold enough to choose integrity even if that reward doesn't come immediately. At first, people may resist your boundaries, criticize your decisions, or call you selfish. But over time, they begin to notice that you don't waver and that creates a deep sense of respect. Integrity may not win you the loudest applause, but it earns you the quiet admiration of those who value truth. And the people who admire you for your integrity are the ones who will stand by you in the long run. Approval fades as quickly as it comes, but respect compounds with time. That respect opens doors because people know your word means something and your values are not negotiable. Opportunities find those who are trusted, and trust is the natural byproduct of integrity. In the long game of life, approval is fleeting, but integrity always wins. Choosing integrity over approval also frees you from the endless exhaustion of performance. When you live for approval, every room you enter requires a new mask, and every conversation requires calculation. You edit your words, your expressions, even your tone, just to maintain the image others want. That constant editing drains your energy because you are always on stage. Integrity, on the other hand, allows you to live unfiltered. You no longer need to manage different versions of yourself because there is only one version, the real one. That simplicity gives you energy back because authenticity doesn't require performance. You show up as you are, and that consistency brings relief. The relief of not pretending is one of the greatest freedoms you can ever give yourself. Approval costs you peace, but integrity restores it back. Living with integrity is also the path to true self-respect. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach yourself that your own voice doesn't matter. Every time you betray your values to please others, you erode your self-esteem. Respecting yourself starts with honoring your boundaries, your truth, and your values. Integrity is the daily practice of saying, I matter too. When you keep that promise to yourself, you begin to walk taller, speak louder, and act bolder. You stop waiting for others to validate you because you've already validated yourself. Self-respect creates confidence that cannot be taken away because it is not dependent on external praise. That kind of confidence is magnetic. It draws people, and not because you're trying to please them, but because authenticity is rare. Integrity is the soil where self-respect grows, and from that soil, confidence blooms. Approval is fragile, but integrity makes you unshakable. The journey of choosing integrity over approval is not easy, but it is necessary. It requires courage to face the fear of rejection and the discomfort of disappointing others. It demands clarity about what you value and the discipline to act on it consistently. It asks you to trade short-term validation for long-term fulfillment, which is never an easy trade. But every act of integrity strengthens you, while every act of approval weakens you. Strength builds slowly, one decision at a time, until it becomes your natural state. And once it does, you no longer feel the need to beg for acceptance because you've already accepted yourself. That acceptance becomes your anchor, steadying you through criticism, rejection, and even failure. Approval may still tempt you, but integrity will remind you where your power lies. And in that reminder, you reclaim control of your life.